Crypto games are on the way, complete with NFT integration and blockchain technology. Even big gaming companies like EA, Ubisoft, and Square Enix have already expressed their interest and are actively looking to participate in the space as soon as 2023 and 2024. But what are crypto games, and how exactly are they different from any other type of game? Well, that's what we're going to explain in today's video. Hey everyone, it's OSK, and today we're going to talk about crypto games, or more specifically, games that have integrated blockchain technology into their framework in order to create something a little bit different than your typical gaming experience. In order to explain how these games work, we're going to be doing a quick overview about what blockchain is, how it applies to games, where do NFTs and play-to-earn games come in, and finally, I'll give my personal thoughts on what I think about this whole development, because let's not kid around here. Crypto games are on the way. They will be the future of gaming as we know it, so it's important to be educated on what exactly they are and how potentially you could even make a career out of them just by playing day in and day out, and I know a lot of you in the comments are going to be very excited about that. And of course, I'll have all these sections timestamped in the video, so if you do need to come back and go over a specific section, I'll make it easy for you. But now with all that intro stuff out of the way, let's get into this. To start, we'll have to get into how blockchain works and why it's different than your typical centralized system, because it's essentially the backbone of the entire crypto game phenomenon. Now, I'm not going to go into depth about how it first started or how Bitcoin or Ethereum works or anything like that, so I suggest using the good old Google machine and researching it yourself if you want to go that in depth with it. I'll just be covering the basics so we can move forward in the video. Blockchain is what's known as a distributed ledger technology. It is the foundation of a system of records that cannot be altered or destroyed in any way. Blockchains are made up of blocks, which contain sets of information, have a set storage, and are linked to previously filled blocks, which makes a chain of blocks, or blockchain, hence the name. And the cool thing about all this is that the data in the blockchain is spread out to different network nodes to create redundancy and helps maintain the fidelity of data. For example, let's take a look at a bank. If you want to give your friend Paul $5 from the bank, you simply tell the bank, hey, I want to give Paul $5. The bank itself has a ledger, and it's the only owner of this ledger, so there's only one. To give Paul $5, they essentially put on their record, hey, subtract $5 from this guy's account and add $5 to Paul's account. That's essentially how this works. But what if someone wanted to fake a transaction or delete one? They only have to go into the bank's ledger itself and change the single record, more or less. I know I'm oversimplifying this, but just bear with me here. With blockchain technology or a distributed ledger, everyone who performs transactions in that system has a copy of the ledger. So let's say there are 8 people in the system, instead of one person having that ledger, everyone has a copy. So there are actually 8 ledgers that keep track of the same transactions at the same time. But now let's say that evil OSK over here wants to get into some funny business, and in order to alter or delete a transaction in the system, the thief would then have to alter over half of all the ledgers in the system. And usually, I know I only use 8 people in this example, but these systems can have thousands or even millions of people using them, which makes it a lot harder for fraud to take place. That's essentially what you're doing with blockchain technology, decentralizing the record of transactions to make it harder to fraud or alter. There are mechanisms called proof of work or proof of stake that also verify these different transactions so everything stays official, and the blockchain is always transparent, meaning everyone can see what transactions are going on and sort of self-police the system in a way if they want to, making fraud even harder to perform without somebody catching it. And that's essentially the benefit of doing blockchain versus a centralized system that's most common nowadays. But let's get into how this can be applied to games. For starters, the simplest example would be applying this to an in-game auction house like the Grand Exchange in Old School RuneScape. And I'm going to be using Old School RuneScape as an example a lot in this video, by the way, just because I play it a lot and all that good stuff. But anyway, aside from an auction house, this can also be applied to maintaining records of item drops from monsters, damage calculations, player trades, item spawning, and so many other things. For example, if someone is trying to dupe some gold via an exploit in the game, this kind of thing is something that can be made visible to everyone in the blockchain, and it's something that players themselves can more easily point out and hold bad actors accountable for, and this can apply to literally anything the game devs think is appropriate to show in the blockchain itself. It's actually very broad in that way. course, this is all dependent on whether the game devs want to make a certain thing visible to everyone. They ultimately have the final say. So it's not a perfect blockchain system, but if they want to do it, they can. This makes player reporting and support a lot easier and more reliable. And instead of having to bend over backwards to catch players in the act, you can simply check the blockchain yourself, see the transparent record of these actions taking place, and then report them from there. Just one example I thought I'd mention. Another thing this opens the door to is NFTs and in-game premium currency, or just straight up in-game cryptocurrency. Games will be able to have their own premium currency be exchanged for real-world dollars between its own players without the need for the game to act as a middleman. And this is what really opens the door for our next section, which is going to be play-to-earn and NFTs in games. And this is something coming down the pipeline, so you better pay attention to this section. For this, let's start with play to earn. Play to earn, very simply put, is the ability for players to earn currency by playing a game. You essentially already do this in some extent in most online games with earning gold or points to be able to purchase items or other goodies in game. Now imagine you being able to convert this in-game gold into a premium currency. RuneScape and a few other games that come to mind already have put this into practice, with players being able to buy bonds on the Grand Exchange, which offer membership subscriptions in exchange for real-world money, dollars, or otherwise. The point here being that bonds can be bought with real-world money and then be sold for in-game gold. Now imagine you being able to do that in reverse, and instead of a bond, you have a cryptocurrency. So what this means is you'll be able to play the game to earn gold, spend the gold to buy cryptocurrency, and exchange the cryptocurrency for real-life dollars or pounds or whatever. That essentially is play to earn in a nutshell, and with some of these kind of games already out there, like Axie Infinity, for example, some players have already moved to playing these games full time because the game allows them to earn real life money in this way. It's actually kind of crazy in that way. You earn just as much money from playing a game as you do performing your regular 9-to-5 job. Pretty crazy, right? But it's what's coming down the pipeline. Not only that, but with the issue of real-world trading that's currently rampant in most MMOs that allow free player trade, this essentially is a game-approved way of doing that now. So for all the real-world trading people, I don't condone it if it's against the rules in your current game. I think you should respect the game dev's decision on that part. But it seems like future developers are on your side of this issue and want to make it easier for you. And that's not even the end of it, because let's say that Ubisoft or Square Enix wants to make more than one or several games in their gaming universe, quote unquote, so to speak. All they would need to do is integrate that game into their blockchain, and boom, ideally, you'll be able to use that same cryptocurrency you earned in another game and use it in a separate game that accepts the same crypto. So for Ubisoft, you could be able to earn that sort of crypto on Assassin's Creed and then use it to buy a skin on Rainbow Six Siege and vice versa. Or if you're playing Final Fantasy XIV from Square Enix, maybe you'll be able to earn their crypto in that gaming universe and then use that to buy a cool skin in the next near game, or even Nier Automata if you want to backtrack or something like that. Or you can simply exchange that crypto to get real life dollars or whatever, and make yourself rich off of playing a game for 16 hours a day, which would then turn a self-sabotaging lifestyle into something more productive. So there you go. You sweaty MMO or FPS grinders, yes, I'm looking at you. You might actually be able to earn yourself some money from playing the game itself instead of hoping that your stream blows up in a million years or something. I kid, of course, but seriously, there's a lot of things that this could apply to. Okay, so we talked about play to earn. Now let's talk about NFTs. NFT stands for Non-Fungible Token. Whenever you buy an NFT online, it has a specific ID that no one else has, and it's displayed on the blockchain for everyone else to see. It's essentially something on the blockchain that cannot be duplicated within the blockchain itself. You've probably seen this fad on social media a lot, especially Twitter, about people buying all these low-quality JPEG images for thousands or even millions of dollars. And that's all well and good and useless for practicality and all that, but NFTs can be more than just worthless images. An NFT is simply something on a blockchain that cannot be duplicated, a unique item. What did I say earlier about blockchain that can be used to track? In-game currency, transactions, or how about in-game items? And can you exchange NFTs for cryptocurrency and therefore real life money? Yes, you can, boys. So let's say that a new boss comes out for an MMO, or you're playing and there's a new gun skin out on Apex Legends or something, right? If there is a rare drop on that boss, that can essentially be programmed to be an NFT. It's essentially like item binding in most modern MMOs, except this is integrated on the blockchain itself. Now let's say you get that one-of-a-kind item drop, then turn around and sell it to another player for thousands of dollars, given that it's a unique item and one-of-a-kind at all. Of course you can. So will games allow you to create and customize skins like gun skins and allow you to officially within the game itself and not a shady third-party website, but in the game itself, sell that skin to another player for real-life crypto or real-life dollars? Yes, they can. That is the future of NFTs in gaming, but it doesn't stop there. Oh, no, no, no. So if you guys are anime fans, you've probably seen some good old sword art online. Yes, I too am a man of culture. And spoilers, by the way, if you still haven't seen this almost decade-old show. Remember after the first part of season 1, whenever Kirito is done with Aincrad and starts to go into Alfheim Online, and this little fuck tells him that some of his skills are transferred over from the other game? Well, what if I told you that every character you create in like this other kind of gaming universe could be an NFT, one of a kind, complete with any and all stats you gain from one game, and if another game is programmed on that same blockchain, you can transfer it over with all of its stats to the other game. And by the way, this can apply to other in-game items of pretty much anything you can think of. Transferable characters, transferable skins, and transferable items, people. That's where we're headed. I know Riot Games is an MMO on the way. Let's say you have a League of Legends skin. There's a possibility that if it's integrated in the right way, you can transfer your skins from League of Legends over to Riot's new MMO if those characters translate over. It's pretty exciting stuff all around, and it'll be completely integrated within the new system if these blockchain games end up getting off the ground. Hey guys, editing OSK here. Just wanted to clarify that the NFT situation, the transfer of items and characters is sort of something that already exists in certain games, especially those in the same universe. Like you can, let's say you get a skin in a certain Assassin's Creed game. Sometimes you can transfer that skin over to the next Assassin's Creed game, that sort of thing. The main benefit from having NFTs is that it's directly transferable to cryptocurrency and therefore real life money. That's the real benefit here. Just wanted to clarify that before we move forward. But now let's go into my personal thoughts here and where I think the industry is going. And all Ready Player One references aside, of course, that is a possibility that could come up. You know, players end up treating the game as more important than their real life, and you're able to earn more money than you can from a typical job. That is a possibility here if it goes that route. I hope it doesn't, but that is a possibility. Big actors are certainly going to get a percentage cut from every transaction. EA and Ubisoft, you know the reputations, you know they like to rip off players, especially EA with Starfield or Star Wars Battlefront and all their other games where they have these loot boxes. You can bet that every transaction that you're going to have with them, they're going to get a cut of it. So the fees might be pretty big. There's a reason why they're coming into the space, and believe me here, they wouldn't be doing it if they didn't think that they could make some money off of it. So keep that in mind. This could be something coming down the pipeline that doesn't last for very long because players end up not liking it for that reason, but it's something that can have some of the ease of use, some of the benefits that I mentioned earlier. And if you really want to think of it, I think Steam has really done a good job at displaying what this could potentially be used for. Of course, you do know that Steam has its own game cards that you can then exchange for Steam points, which is, you know, it's already in the space, but they could just as easily integrate that into their own cryptocurrency like Steam Coin, for example, or even if Ubisoft wants to have something like that, those cards can essentially be converted into NFTs, and then you would transfer it over for like Ucoin or something for Ubisoft, something along those lines. So they can already do this to some extent. I think it would just be easier on the consumer side, because currently what games allow you to do is they allow you to partake in their premium currency and then buy items from there. If they have a cryptocurrency system where it applies to all of their products, that's obviously transferable and a lot easier for a lot of games, at least for the consumer standpoint, but it could just as easily not end up that way, because game companies like to, they like your cash. So having to pay for premium currencies per game, so to speak, would be more advantageous in that way. So this kind of thing worries me in a certain sense, because obviously these game companies are going to be getting into the space because it's going to make them more money than it would otherwise. And we've already seen games like Axie Infinity come into the space, and it seems like it's not really working out too well. It seems like a lot of these games that I'm seeing that are blockchain games, so to speak, they seem to really be pushing the idea that they are blockchain games, but the games themselves don't really have a lot of depth. There's not really any AAA titles out there. Axie Infinity is the biggest example of this, I think. Currently, the way it works is you buy a monster, you train it up, and then you sell it for a profit, that sort of thing. It seems that the space isn't really making it to where it's profitable enough to really work on its play and earn system. So in my mind, you have to have the game in mind first, and then apply the blockchain system on top of it to make it viable for the consumer. So this kind of thing could be a fad in that way. But nonetheless, it is still coming. We do have Ubisoft, EA, and Square Enix confirmed to be working on these sort of titles, so you still need to keep an eye on it, and it could turn out to be a good thing. We don't really know at the end of the day quite yet, but it's something that I thought I would put on your radar. And of course, there is the worry that if gaming universes end up existing with their own cryptocurrency, this could be pay to win on steroids, because let's face it, if you can exchange the game's cryptocurrency with real life money, then obviously you go the other way with it, where you buy a whole bunch of this in-game currency, you buy a lot of buffs in-game, and then that applies to your in-game strength. That is a possibility. You could have pay to win on steroids. And the gaming market as of late is a lot more tolerant of these pay for convenience, pay to win strategies that companies like to put out, that maybe previously 10 years ago we might not have been as accustomed to. So just keep that in mind, that if these games come out, obviously the devs are going to want a cut of it, and they're going to be implementing that in the form of fees for exchange fees, pretty much. And they're going to want to incentivize you exchanging your cryptocurrency for real life money. So pay to win for everything on that blockchain system could be something down the line. Doesn't necessarily have to happen, but it's something you should watch out for. But I think I'll go ahead and leave it on that. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you would, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you found something useful out of this video. And you can always check out the Discord down in the description, as well as my Patreon if you'd like to support my work and help me to make these sort of videos. A lot of time goes into them and a lot of thought. I personally put this one off for about a week so I could learn as much as I could about this system. Something that I've been hearing about, figured I'd give my 2 cents on it. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and head out of here. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.